Hey guys, welcome back to Vallone's RC Hobby, and we are back with a super special guest. This guy, I've been following this guy since the very beginning, since I got back into this hobby, and this is VAS from Aussie RC Playground. VAS, how the hell are you, man? I'm so proud to be on here with you.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. I'm doing very well. And yourself, how are you doing?
I'm just rocking and rolling and doing what we got to do to get by here. It's we're playing safe, and that's all that matters. And we're
Well,
playing
that's
with
it.
our
That's
toys.
that's what you got to do. You got to play.
That's
You
it.
got to roll with the punches, as they say.
Yep, and we keep playing with our toys, our RCs, and you know what? We can't beat that.
Oh, that's what keeps us sane, I guess.
Yep. Now, guys, I'm talking from New York, and I'm talking to Vass. He's in Australia. You said Victoria, Australia?
Victoria's the state. Melbourne is the city. Yes, I'm in Melbourne.
Melbourne. Okay. And I'm talking to him in the future. So
Yeah.
it's 6 o'clock at night now, and well, 10 after 6 my time now in New York. He's 10 after 9 on
AM.
Friday,
That's
a.m.
right.
So what do I need to do to prepare for tomorrow, Vass, if you can tell me?
Look, I wish I could give you some lottery numbers or something like that, but
Yeah, that would
unfortunately,
be
no,
awesome.
that's not possible.
Very cool, man. Well, guys, like I said, I've been following this guy since I started the hobby about almost 2 years ago, and I was talking to Vest a little before the interview here, and I got my DHK Maximus, which was my entry level, getting back into the hobby car by watching his channel and his review on his bike path, his bike jumps and stuff that he went to, the
That's
skate
right.
park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It feels like a while ago now that I've had that car, but I still have it, believe it or not, it's still here on the shelf.
Yep.
So
I'm
yeah.
almost tempted to buy it back because it was a fun car. Like sometimes after days of work, I can grab a car and go with it somewhere. You know, the armors, like my 8S armors, you gotta kind of plan out your day when you're gonna race them
Yeah, and you
around.
got to hit the gym the day before because you got to carry it around, just to
Exactly.
prep up and do some
Yep.
and take one of those pre-workout shakes before you go and bash that thing.
Yep.
But yeah, when you get something like the Maximus, that's not. I mean, it's a 1/8 scale, but it's not a crazy 1/8 scale. You can take that to a fairly small area and be
Yep.
civilized with it, and it's a fair car.
Yep.
It's a pretty good car. So
I saw a deal this week. This guy who's in Texas, RC Hobby Explosion, he put out like a coupon and a promo this weekend for this car, and he's throwing in batteries with it. He's throwing in a charger and all this stuff. I mean, like I need those. I have those. I have so many of those. But he brought the price down a little bit. I'm like, huh, I'm tempted again. Maybe I got so many cars. But it's great to have you on the show here. This is great to have you because someone who's been vested in this hobby for a while now, and I find your videos super informative,
thank
very
you.
detailed, in layman's terms. Everybody can understand. And your reviews, I love the way you break down the reviews and you get into all the nitty gritty for each car.
Thank you.
The best out of 35, like you do, and I think
Yeah, yeah.
that's
I mean, look, that was obviously that's a work. That's something that's taken a long time to sort of get to, and I still don't think I have all the answers and the right formula for doing any type of review on any product. But I try to make it so that yeah, most people can relate. That it is in layman's terms. That
right.
everybody from the novice. Young enthusiast to the guy that's in his 60s or 70s wanting to get back into the hobby can actually understand it. So I try to obviously accommodate for a very broad audience of various different skill levels, and that's what I sort of aim for.
Yeah, and that's what I found so informative when I watched your videos. I mean, compared to so many channels out there, you get into real great detail, and that's like I said, it reminds me of you. Remind me of myself on my VW channel because I do very similar VW videos
Yeah.
for in the technical terms for restoring a Beetle, and I kind of relate to the way you work on your
Oh, thanks,
RCs.
man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hell yeah. So do you have like a favorite quote or you got any you know
No, I can't,
anything to
I've
go by?
never been one for catchphrases or anything like that.
Or how about a
I don't know.
message to the
Probably the
RC
only thing
community?
that sort of caught on during my unboxings was, I guess, me slapping the box off the counter.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
That kind of came. as I did one or two of them, and people kind of saying, oh, I love that you just get into it, because initially I did do unboxings like everybody else, where you start cutting the tape, and then you get to try and get the car out, and it's zip tied about 10 different ways, and you're sitting there fumbling around, and the mic's rubbing on your clothes and making all sorts of audio noises, and because you're trying to get in there, and I got to get a wire clippers and all this. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to clean it up, get all the contents out of the box, have a bit of a look and see what it's all about, sort of learn the car a little bit. That way I'm a little bit more prepared in talking about what this new product is and what its features are, rather than going through a bit of a discovery adventure that could technically lead nowhere if I don't really know what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at, with a new product. So I did it that way, and it kind of stuck. And I guess that's probably the only thing that I have that's classified as some kind of catchphrase, but I don't really have anything specific.
Okay. So what would be like then your message to the RC community?
My message to the RC community, look, one of the things that I try to convey on the channel, as you said, is to try and put out as much information as I can, to I guess to a broad audience. And the idea is to, I guess, arm people with as much information as they can have, to allow them to make the right decision on a product. So do your research, take your time, learn it, because it's a very involved hobby that's ever evolving, and you do need to sort of keep your wits about you, because that's things can get out of hand, and let's not forget that although these are toys and these are for our enjoyment and entertainment, they can be dangerous, given the size and weight and power that they now have and the speeds that are capable. In the wrong hands, you can hurt someone, you can hurt yourself, and even property. You look at the dangers of lipo batteries if mistreated and things like that. So just be mindful that, yes, it's all for a bit of fun, it's all toys, and but respect it, and I think you'll be fine. That's really
I totally agree with you there, because I mean, growing up with the old nickel metal batteries and the old Tamiya cars, nowhere near what they are today. I always say to people, like, when they look at my Creighton, the 8S, or the Outcast 8S, or even say a big X Max, I mean, they can eat a little dog. They can
quite
eat,
easily.
I mean, it really could. If you're in the park somewhere and people are walking their dogs or animals, or they have small children, you take a wrong turn and you don't see that they're behind you, and you're throttling it, and you feel like, oh, I'm going to do a cool move and cut the wheel and let it skid, and I've had it where I've done it to myself, and the things come flying at me, right? So it's I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's like you said, it's fun cars, enjoyment, toys, but they can be pretty brutal, man.
They can bite back. If you're not careful, they can bite back.
Totally. So how long you been in the hobby?
Look, I originally started in the RC hobby, I would say probably for the better part of 20 years ago, somewhere around there. So I would say early 2000s, somewhere around there, 2000, 2001. I got into it because a friend of mine had found an old Tamiya Bearhawk in his cousin's garage, and he dusted it off and got it running, and then he showed it to me. And I was like, wow, this looks really cool. He was ripping around in the park and creating all sorts of little dust donut trails. And I thought, excellent, I got to get me one of these. So I went to our hobby shop, our local hobby shop, which coincidentally is the same hobby shop that I've now ended up working in. So I worked for that business, and it was Metro Hobbies, and I dumped something like $500+ on a brand new TB01. It had a Colin McRae rally body with the Ford Focus shell, and it was a kit, and you had to build it. It had the old mechanical speed controllers, You had that servos in there. And it was, standard 540 size motor, brushed with a nickel metal battery and all that sort of thing. And then eventually I got rid of the mechanical speed control, started upgrading, and we started, because my friend and I were very competitive in speed and all that sort of thing. So our aim is to go as fast as we possibly could, and we try to have drag races and all this sort of stuff. And before I knew it, I had 5 cars to my name. and I had Tamiya, Kyosho Ultima buggy. I had a Traxxas E-Max, the old short wheelbase ones with the black chassis. Just yeah, all sorts of different things. And then I took a bit of a break because of kids and family and marriage and all that sort of thing that still gets. And I got back into it recently. When I say recently, it was about 8 years ago now, where I was very much into gaming. I was, into the PlayStation thing, and I was part of a clan and all this sort of stuff, and it was great. But I got pretty sick of it one day. I just put down the controller, and I'm like, you know what? I think I've had enough of this. I've had my time, and I came downstairs to this very room, and there's a cupboard right in the background there, and in that cupboard, I had my old RC cars. And I dusted them off. Half the batteries were dead. I couldn't get them going, but the other half was still good. And I started mucking around with them. And before I knew it, I was on YouTube and Googling to see what the latest and greatest cars were. And I started finding all these channels, and I couldn't find any Aussie channels. You know, I saw a few American and Canadian channels. You know, RC Sparks, Ultimate RC, RC Nightmare. And even RC Militia. So some of these are no longer around. I know RC Sparks are still going very strong.
Yeah.
But a lot of these other channels are no longer around. And I thought, you know what, if these guys can do it, maybe I can give it a shot. And I started the channel, and my dive into RC went from dipping my toes in and just having a bit of fun to really being this juggernaut collection that I have. It's been crazy, and I love it. And I work in the industry, and I have so many contacts, and it's just amazing.
I'm in the same boat. Like I said, the same thing. I'll dip my fingers into it, and I see though these other channels. Now I got a filmmaking background, so maybe I can jazz it up a little bit, make it a little more cinematic with some of these cars, and and of course I said, let me get the Maximus. I bought that, and then I'm like, yeah, that's it. I won't get much else, sure enough. Then shortly after the Red Cat Racing landslide I got, then I got the Shredder, and it just every month now I was getting something new. And then thankfully I got a 2,000 square foot shop here where I have some racks like what you have in the background there. And I'm starting to stack my cars. But I'm trying to be mindful that I don't want to collect so much.
Yeah.
Because in the end, in the back of my mind, I'm still kind of like, I want to be a minimalist. I don't like to have so much stuff.
Yeah.
And my wife's kind of similar. She's like, look, we don't need a lot of stuff. We want to be able to travel and not soak all our money into things. And so I have cars. And if I see cars sitting for a little while that I'm not touching, I put them up on eBay.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
It's just something that I can't. And there's a couple I wanted back, but I said to myself, let me move on. But something else is coming down the pike, so.
That's right. There's always another one coming around, a new update, a new color scheme, a new model of some sort. There's always something. So
that's it. So I feel vested. I'm not to your caliber yet, but I feel vested, and I'm in it, and we'll see where it goes. Right now it's a hobby, and I'm having fun.
Well, that's it. That's what it's all about. If it gets to a point where you're not having fun anymore, where you're stressing, it's probably time to take a bit of a step back and sort of reevaluate where you're going and what you're doing, because the RC hobby is definitely supposed to be fun, and fun is what you make it. If flying's your thing, boating's your thing, race FPV quads, monster trucks, cars, speed runs. I mean, there's crawling. There is an enormous amount of genres within the hobby itself.
For sure.
And I'm sure that there is something for everybody.
I think so.
So it just, you got to find your niche, you got to find your fun, so.
So going back to when you started, say 20 years ago, what do you think has changed from then to now?
From then to now, I think, look, when I started back then, things were a lot simpler. You had nickel metal packs, brushed motors, and a speed controller, and that was it.
Does it? Yeah.
It was quite a simple setup, and in fact, I would go as far as to say that the industry was more heavily focused on the nitro side of things than the electric side of things.
I remember that.
Because nitro, you were able to achieve better results from a nitro compared to electric. The other thing that's changed, whilst now is obviously the other way around. The other thing that's changed is, back then, a ready to run was considered, if you saw a ready to run car on the shelf, it was a notch above toy grade.
Right,
It
exactly.
was very basic, it was very simple, it was the budget entry level kind of like stuff. If you really wanted to get a proper car, you would get the kit and you would build it and you would paint it and you would tune it and do it that way. Whilst now the industry has flipped that completely around. The kits still exist, but I find that the kits are more for race people. You don't really get a kit for the average basher or for a beginner. If you still want to build a kit, the best that you can do nowadays is go down to Tamiya.
Right.
And go for that nostalgia and build those old Hornets and Grasshoppers and what have you. But if you want to build a kit like just an average, like a Maximus kit, for example,
right,
it just isn't. That doesn't exist.
It's not there. Yeah.
For a middle of the road type of vehicle. So that's where I think the industry has changed a lot. And of course, brushless. When the introduction of brushless came on, I initially wasn't quite sure where that was going to go. But when you start to see the speed run guys being able to get 200 plus kilometers an hour, which is 125, 130 mile an hour plus on cars, and then you've got trucks that are now capable that were not capable before, such as the Creighton 8S and the X-Max and the Outcast. These are big cars, heavy cars weighing a lot of they got a lot of weight behind them, and they can easily break someone's leg if they hit at speed.
No question.
No question about it. So being able to have those sorts of vehicles at our fingertips and having them affordable as well to an extent, I think that's where it's changed the most in those 20 years. It's quite different from what it used to be.
I totally agree. And like I said, when I got back into it after 25 or 30 years, it was a huge update for me. And I sat on YouTube for a couple weeks just honing up on the technology and the terminology even. And it's fascinating what I see. I do miss the kits. I built all my old kits, my Kyosho cars. It was great sitting with my father, my grandfather, and it might have been a 12-hour day, and we're in the basement or a little workshop, and we're putting this little sucker together. And in the end, you felt emotionally connected to it.
That's right.
I can hold it in my hands and say, wow, like this is really cool here, and I think we live in a society today too, everything's going quick and push notifications and, delivered by Amazon. It comes in on a drone, drops the product right on your front step, and, people want things done instantly.
It's a very different world today than what it used to be, where before I think the hobby was about the build.
Yes.
Right? The RC hobby was about the build. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about building a car or building a plane or a boat or whatever. It was about the build. Being able to drive or fly that product,
right,
I think was almost a byproduct of that experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now it's like, I want to be able to drive it. And I can tell you this from working in a hobby shop, that there are a lot of people out there that have the money to buy these products, but they have no emotional connection or no responsibility for that product. Because what they do when something goes wrong, they'll bring it back to the shop, dump it on the counter, and go fix it for me. There's no more of that. Okay, let's dig around. Let's find out what's wrong, what's popped out, what's broken. Let's fix it. Let's replace it. Let's order the parts, and let's get this fixed and up and running again. They will just go, well, I spent the money on the product. Here's another $100. Fix it for me, and I'll be back in a week to pick it up or whenever. So. And then they go out, they launch it off a ramp again, they smash it into a tree, they do whatever, they break it, they bring it back again. And there's it almost feels like exactly what you said. Because there is no emotional attachment to that product, it almost feels like they don't have that responsibility to look after it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit sad in a way when I look at it that way, because people will just throw money at the products. I'll just upgrade it, and it's just upgrade after upgrade and spend money and dump money into it, as opposed to, hey, respect the product, learn how to drive, learn how to use it, learn how to fix it. And you may actually have a different approach towards how you use it as well. So
yeah, it's rare today. I mean, it's funny. I was driving along the other day near my shop, and I saw this fellow with his little son, that must have been like, I don't know, he must have been 2 or 3 years old. And the guy looked about my age, and it's definitely his father. And I'm driving my bug, and I turn around, and I'm like, he had an RC car in his hand, this guy.
Mm,
And it looked like an old RC.
yeah.
So I spun around and I said, "Are you RCing for real?" And it's right around here. I mean, to bump into somebody who's doing RC around here is rare.
Okay.
And I pulled out one of my RCs. I was in the back of the Beetle. I showed him the little wltoys that I've been working on, and he had the Hornet. So he pulls out the Hornet, and of course, the thing's got to be 30 years old, as you know, when he used to
Original
bring.
release.
Yep, and he's been wanting to show his son, and he's trying to get his son interested to say, okay, start wrenching on this, we can fix it. And I love that about it. I thought it was just classic.
Yeah.
The old days of, bringing your son. Like my grandfather was into model, airplanes. He was in a World War II guy. He fixed the bombers and the fighter planes in World War II in England.
Okay.
And so he was great with his hands. So he was making, model planes for me and to fly. He had the controllers when we never actually flew them, but he made them all out of the balsa wood. He wrapped them and logoed them and did what he had to do. So I was involved in that. And again, like you said, it's something that's missing today. A lot of kids, or people, they might smack a car up and say, all right, don't worry about it. I'll get another one, and they'll just plunk down money instead of fixing it. That's the fun thing about it. So sometimes when I get a new RC in, I just start wrenching on it anyway, just to check all the screws, check the
Yeah,
suspension, because outside the box, they're not always tuned to your liking.
that's right. Yeah.
So get your fingers wet a little bit to feel the connection a little.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a full build, of course, but it's a good thing to, test it out. 'Cause like I said, the little WO toys I got, I just did a video recently on it where out of the box, the toe is way off. The diffs have no grease. Some screws are loose in the chassis. So these are things you can start on right away, even before you run the car.
Yeah.
And you get a little satisfaction out of that, maybe.
Yeah. And you develop a little bit of connection with the product. And
Yes.
especially when it comes to things like, oh, okay, let's change the wheels out, put new wheels on it, or paint up a body, or tune
Yeah.
something on the car and adjust something. And it's like, okay, now I'm making it my own.
Yeah.
It's got bits of my personality in it in some way.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect almost.
Yes. I
So
agree. So what's your plan with RC? Do you see a good future here for yourself? Do you still continue to work on YouTube? What's the deal?
I'm going to continue for as long as I can. As long as I can, I'll keep driving. As long as I have two opposable thumbs and good health, I'll keep driving. I'll keep
That's
flying as
great.
well, because I do love flying airplanes and all that. So I'll just keep doing what I do until one day maybe I'll wake up and I'll just be bored of it or sick of it. But I don't see that day anytime soon. It's a very fun hobby to be in. I've made so many friends, so many connections all around the world. I mean, yourself as an example.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for this hobby, I would not be talking to somebody in New York at the moment.
Yep.
So
I
it's
love
a
the shirt,
wonderful
by the
hobby.
way.
Sorry.
I love your shirt, by the way. You got New York on there.
Oh yeah, I do too. so, so yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, it's just been an amazing ride to jump back into it and do the whole YouTube thing, and something that started off as a hobby for me is now part of my life, because I work in the industry. I work in a hobby store, and
Hmm.
it's just grown into what it has today. Now, what the future holds, I mean, I'm going to keep going where I'm going, and try to grow and try to do things better and be the best that I can be in this industry. But you never know. New doors might open, new things
Yeah.
might come around, and things might change. But for now, I'll steady the course and keep going and keep doing what I do.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Because you got a great message, and I hope you keep doing it, man. Because
Cheers.
you. I have to say, you did inspire me to a degree to jump in as well and say, you know what, time to go back in time a little bit and feel like a kid again, and jump out there and RC.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, the fact that this is a very much an outdoor
Yes.
hobby,
Yeah.
but it also is a very much indoor hobby when you are tinkering, doing your maintenance, doing customizations and repairs and things like that. You can do that on a rainy day, and on a sunny day you go out and enjoy the product and drive it, fly it, whatever. So it's a good hobby to be in, and you make a lot of friends, because when I'm out at the park, just at the local park, flying a small aeroplane or whatever, there's always people walking their dogs that swing by and stop.
Sure.
Oh, how did you get it from? How do I get one? And, little kids, can I have a shot? Can I try it? So there's a lot of things, and even in my videos, you'll see there's a couple of videos that I did a few months ago where I went to the BMX track and I was out there driving my cars, and there was a whole bunch of kids there, and they were all watching and laughing, chasing after the car. They were flipping it over for me when it flipped upside down, and asking all sorts of questions. And a lot of the comments in that video were, this is fantastic. You've probably inspired those kids to ask their parents for an RC car as opposed to another video game to be under the Christmas tree. You know what I mean? Right. So, and things like that. So it's really good to see that type of response and to have that type of influence, because at the moment we are living in a world where everybody has a screen attached to their eyeballs.
Yeah, or they're indoors a lot, right?
Exactly. And my kids, look, I have all these toys and everything. My kids have almost no interest in any of this.
Wow.
Which is ironic, you know what I mean? I've tried so hard to get them into it. My daughter is just as far north of this as you can imagine. My son, I drag him into it when he helps me with the speed runs. So you'll see him in videos from time to time.
Yep, I see him.
So you'll see in the earlier videos he's only about this big. Now he's about this big. So he shows up on the videos, but he's a good soul. He always helps me out, so he'll be around.
That's awesome. Yeah, and one of the questions I had, when I got back into this was, I didn't even know how popular it really was. So you've been in it longer than me when you jump back into it, and so where is the popularity of it today? Has it grown? Has it taken a step back? I don't know, because I wasn't in 2 years prior, but before when I got in.
I think it's growing quite considerably, because there has been a strong focus on certain genres of the hobby. If you look at when I got back into it, I didn't know the first thing about crawlers.
Yeah.
So when 8 years ago, RC Sparks was very heavy into the whole crawler game, and you look at brands like Axial, for example, who really were at the pointy end of leading the pack into that genre, and people, I mean, that side of the hobby just completely exploded.
It's amazing.
It's been absolutely amazing, and now you've got all these other brands that have jumped on top of that whole crawler genre. I mean, you look at Traxxas, for example. Habao brought out a crawler. Charisma's got crawlers. There's just crawlers everywhere. Trail trucks and all that sort of thing. So it's definitely growing in popularity. And then you look at the other side of, say, speed runs. You look at brands like Traxxas brought out the X01. ARRMA's now got 3 cars in their lineup that are speed street bashers. Right, and no doubt there'll be other companies that will probably jump on board and bring out other cars like that as well in the future.
Yeah, I think I've even saw Red Cat has some crawlers now too.
The car got crawlers, and then the bashing scene, being able to just rocket ship cars off ramps into the moon,
amazing.
That has inspired releases from ARRMA, like the EXB line. They just announced the EXB Mojave. They got the EXB Creighton, and then every time they bring out one of these cars, it's got better improvements from the previous one to try and make them stronger and tougher to take this all this abuse that all these people are putting onto these cars. So it's almost like the racing sector has either become a bit more of a stalemate or has taken a step back, but the bashing scene, the ready to run scene within all these little genres, these little pockets, I think it's grown, and it will continue to grow. As long as guys like us continue to sort of showcase these products and show what they can do, this is just going to continue to grow more and more.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I never, when I got back into scene, I never heard of ARRMA, and I had no idea, who they were, and I know they've been around for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
I've heard of Traxxas, and I never got a Traxxas prior when I was in my Tamiya days. I think I had a Team Losi car. That was about, the extent of my, good car was a Team Losi car. I had a JRX2, and that was a sweet car. But then after that, once the nitro stuff started coming in, I kind of lost interest
Yeah.
in the whole RC thing. And then high school came along, and there was sports and college and all that stuff. So things got in the way. But when I saw the ARRMA cars on the market, which I've never seen before, I was like, oh my God, they look so mean looking, like they look so like, holy cow. And seeing some of their promo videos, so I would think they're probably helping with the excitement, because I mean, they've been releasing stuff like crazy,
The
the
last,
past.
yeah, the last 2 or 3 years, they've been absolutely going gangbusters on their new releases.
Yeah.
So they've definitely come back strong from the Hobbyco days.
Yeah.
They had a year in limbo, I think, roughly, where we didn't know what was going on with ARRMA, and then once Horizon Hobby picked them up,
Uh-huh.
they spent a lot of that time designing and coming up with ideas of what they were going to do with their products and what product lines they were going to reintroduce. So it's been really good to see them grow and go from strength to strength,
Yeah.
to see where they are today. And who knows, in another year or two, they could have a lot more product out there, and who knows what they'll do. It'll be pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
So,
wild, you almost
but
wonder, I mean,
it is sad. On the flip side of that, it is sad to see a couple of brands that I think are suffering a little bit.
yeah.
I think Team Associated still has a very strong presence in the racing scene, but
Hmm.
I don't see them having a huge presence in a ready to run market.
Yeah.
I think at once upon a time they sort of did,
Oh
um,
yeah.
but I think they've really culled back a lot of their product line. They're focused mainly on the racing side of things, and that's not a bad thing. I just wish they had some opportunity there to really have a couple of good bashes on the market.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be nice.
or to at least have a little bit more product awareness. Um, and then HBI, I think, is at the top of the list as well. They're a little bit in limbo, I think, at the
Oh,
moment. Um,
okay.
I'm not quite sure where they stand in the States, but over here, it's a little bit. We're not sure what's going to happen with HBI at the moment. So
Yeah, they're not much around. I would have to say, I mean, for me looking, I mean, I don't see much with them at all. Even with local hobby shops and stuff, like there's nothing for sale really that they carry. I mean, I've heard, I've seen some of this stuff. It looks really cool, but yeah, it's even like Habao, like I've have a couple Habao cars too.
yeah,
And it seems like a company I would like to see them crank it a little more, turn the dial up a little more, put out
yeah,
some more stuff, because they have potential. I think they have potential to compete against, say, Traxxas ARRMA, in my opinion. What do you think?
100% agree. I've got the Habao Hyper Plus 2.
Yep.
Which is the big, it's like a 7 scale big 4-wheel drive monster truck, and
Yep.
that
Yep.
is an absolute tank.
Yep.
But again, I think that the marketing for that could have been a little bit better. The
Hmm.
initial setup out of the box for that truck could also be a little bit better.
Yes.
Durability wise, the engineering that they put into these cars is actually really good.
Yeah, it's beater.
It's
Yep.
just those finer touches, just ironing out those little wrinkles. And one of the reasons why I can tell you this from a retail perspective as well, their box art is not very appealing.
Right.
It still has that sort of like cheapish sort of look to it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and from a retailer here in this country, I can tell you that it's not very appealing to have those boxes out on display.
Yeah.
So if they improve their box art, they make it a little bit classy. Take some notes out of the Losi, out of ARRMA, out of Traxxas, and sort of tweak that a little bit more. Make those cars a bit more appealing to the general public. I think they could do big things. Habao have got the tools. They just
Yeah.
need to know how to use them. And
I had the monster truck, and I updated the diffs. I think you were mentioning to do possibly that, and I did that center diff, put the 500K in there,
hmm,
and then I think I put like 60 or 100 in the front or something. And it did improve some things. The tires are still ballooning,
yeah,
and the car just tends to have like this fishy movement to it
yeah,
when I'm throttling it. But yeah, it's a beast. I mean, and that thing could take a beating and a half. That's what was really cool that I liked about it, you know. But again, yeah, out the box, the shocks were kind of weak, and there was no grease in them. You know, you figure you're paying that kind of money for a truck like that, it should be more ready to go.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
absolutely. And then I have the Hyper GT, the on-road car,
Oh yes.
which I really like too. And I updated that to 6S, gave it a little more power. So I like that car. That's a pretty cool on-road car, you know. And I actually sometimes drive that more than my felony or my infraction,
Yeah.
just because I don't know, because I like the look of it. I love the
Yeah.
blue body that I bought for it, and you know, so yeah, that's a pretty cool car. But um, I got to say, your skill level in driving is really good, dude. When I saw,
Thank you.
I almost fell over the one time I saw you go to the bike park with all those ramps, and you took the Outcast. I don't know, I guess the 6S.
6S, yeah.
Oh my God! And you're doing double, triple backflips, and I'm like, how the hell is he doing that? Like, it was just, and you were so skillful, and the way you landed and stuff. Like, man, you got some killer skills, I must say.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I can tell you that to get to that level, there is a trail of broken parts and disappointment to follow.
For sure, I can imagine. I can totally
There's a
imagine.
lot of trial and error in getting to that sort of skill level, and I still don't consider myself to be all that great. So I appreciate the compliment. Thanks.
Oh, for sure. Even the speed runs, man. Like you know, you got some good stuff there, man.
Yeah, speed runs is a whole other level of butt clenching. I can tell you that.
Huh?
Because if you mess up, you know, you have something coming at you at 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary.
Yep.
So yeah, it's you really have to be on your game, and you have to take a lot of baby steps to really tune those vehicles and get them to do those speeds. You know,
Yep.
if you see a video online of a guy doing 120-mile-an-hour pass, he didn't just wake up one morning, buy the
Exactly.
car, and do that speed.
Yeah.
There is, much like my trail of broken parts for doing
Yeah.
backflips, there is a trail of in speed increments that he's gone through
Absolutely.
to get to that level. And you know, which circles back to what we were talking about again with people that have that disconnect with the cars. You know,
Yeah.
they see guys like the Rich Duper Bashers and, you know, the Philip Jolies doing speed passes or double backflips or whatever, and they'll just go to a hobby shop or to the website, dump a bunch of money into a car, and expect
And
the
think they
same
can do it.
results.
Yep.
And it's just not going to happen that way.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
yeah, people need to understand that there's a lot of work behind the scenes from that, you know, 5-minute video that you see. There's a lot more hours involved
Oh, no question. And
to
I'm learning that myself. Believe me, I've been trying to do. I do some backflips every now and then. I do land them, but man, it's sometimes, man, it's brutal. And I'm just like, all right, look, it's all part of the game, man. It's all part of the learning. You know, I
part of the
jump.
learning curve. That's right. I remember the very first backflip I did was with my team associated rival, which is sitting up there,
Okay.
and just trying to do that one backflip. My hands were like this, you
Oh,
know.
hell yeah. Yep. I
It was
think I did my
crazy.
first backflip with probably an easy car to do a backflip on. It was the my JLB J3 Speed.
Okay.
So I had a there's a
Oh
an
yes, I know the
RC.
one. I know the one. That's like the cheetah.
Yeah.
It's similar to the cheetah. Yes, I know the
Yeah,
one.
it has the blue, nice blue body on it with some gray lines and stuff.
Yes, yes.
I like that car too. That was a pretty cool car. And you know, there's an airfield here, an RC airfield, and I was meeting up with these RC guys who were just flying planes, and the grounds there are great, but there's some nice natural grassy mounds.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was allowing me to run on the runway and then hitting these mounds and then doing backflips. And so on a 4S car, on a 3S actually, the JLB is, and doing backflips without a problem. And that was a cool car. I thought I had it. I'm like, oh, this is cake. I could do this. But then you get another truck like you know, like a Red Cat or something, which is not as easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different story. But I know total, you got great skill level, man. When I saw that, I'm like, I saw my dad. I'm like, Dad, you got to see this. This guy's nuts. You know, launch. I mean, and I'm sure you're using a GoPro or something, so like the wide angle lens makes it look like it's gigantic.
No,
You know,
I actually use a DSLR.
oh, no kidding.
When I film
Oh,
on my cars, on my planes, I use a GoPro just mounted on my forehead. But
yeah.
with the with my car videos, I use a DSLR. I've got a special sort of like shoulder mount brace thing,
Yeah, I
and
saw
the
that.
DSLR kind of mounts up the top here, and
Oh.
then I sort of synchronize myself to where the car is, and I lock in. And whenever I'm driving, I'm sort of moving my whole body and sort of keeping. So I don't look at the camera. I
Gotcha.
drive the car like normal,
Yeah.
but because mentally you're sort of locked in, you sort of move around when you do the jumps, and that's how I get the footage. So it's all I'm driving and filming at the same time.
Wow.
That's
Well,
how
that's
I
a
do
good.
it.
You got some good picture there because it makes it look like it's so huge. So I mean, I know the GoPros can do that. They have such this ultra wide lens on them, and
Yeah.
everything looks a lot bigger than what it really is. But so if there's anything you think in this community today that RC that should change for the better, what do you think?
I think to change for the better, I would like to see a bit of a wind back on the ready to run, and have more kits available.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Yep.
so that people can have that connection again, so that parents can teach their kids how to build something, and how show them that there is time and labor and love that goes into building one of these cars,
Yeah.
rather than just going, okay, yeah, no worries, here's another $100, go get yourself a car, or whatever.
Hmm.
And it becomes this kind of like, it's hard to explain. It becomes a very materialistic acquisition, where there's no emotional connect. I would love to see people's perspective change on the hobby in that
Yes.
regard, because now I want it ready to run. It has to be flawless. It has to be
Yeah.
bulletproof. I got to be able to jump my house or do 100 miles an hour, and it shouldn't break. It shouldn't overheat. It shouldn't do this. It shouldn't do that. No matter how
Right.
you land or whatever. And that's the biggest issue, because I see it all the time. People see guys like us go and do triple backflips and jump all these things, not realizing the time and effort and skills,
Yeah.
the time that's taken to acquire those skills, and go down and dump a bunch of money on a counter, acquire those cars, and expect the same results. And it's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
So people's perspective, I think I would wish would change, and just having a little bit more kits available in the hobby would be nice as well, just so that you could sort of reconnect with the hobby as a whole a bit
I
more.
agree. No, that's really good. And I'll add to that. I feel that I wish there was some more like outside communities to get together. So
Mm.
maybe like RC clubs that are more local, you
Yes,
know,
yes,
because
very good
we're all
point. Very
communicating
good
through the
point.
web. We're in the forums and stuff, but still nothing beats talking to somebody face to face.
Very good point. Very good
Yeah.
point. You know, looking outside, our own personal acquisitions and so forth, it would be nice to have more RC facilities,
Yeah.
around the country, around the world, where people can go. Because you can go to a skate park, you can go to a BMX park, you can go down to a local playground with swings and everything, but there aren't a lot of places where you've got a dedicated RC park where
Right.
people can go there within their own limitations, and run those things away from crowded places, or away from people on bikes, or away from people walking their dogs or whatever. So it would be nice to see governments, communities coming up with these little RC playgrounds
Yeah, that'd
around
be
the
great.
world. You know,
Hmm. Because that can bring people more into the hobby, and then like you said, maybe it can transition to again people wrenching on things a little bit better, because they talk
that's
into
very
other
true.
people, and they can start saying, hey, like, I added this to this car and it made it to do this, and then all of a sudden the kid's like, you know what, that's a great idea, mom, can you buy me the new motor, and I'll put it in myself, and
Yep,
it could lead to something like that. But
absolutely agree.
all right, so let's wrap this up. What is some great advice, or advice on your part to give to a newbie? I know we probably touched on some of them already, but a new guy getting back into the hobby, what is some good advice you can give him?
Look, try not to let your ambition outdo your skills.
Ah, I like
because
that.
because yeah, I mean, look, like I said, it's very easy to go and dump a bunch of money on a counter, and get something that's really fast and everything. And I can tell you this from, again, working in the hobby shop, that I've had people come into the shop. They want to run, a Creighton on 6S, and it's their first RC car. And 2 days later, they're back in because they've hit a tree at 60 miles an hour, and the whole thing's in bits. You know what I mean? So take baby steps, do your research, and try to respect the product, because yes, they are toys, but when you start reaching 60 plus miles an hour, even 50 miles an hour, and you hit somebody, or you hit an object, physics takes over. So things will happen.
Agree. and one other thing too, I think, is their passions. They got Traxxas lovers, Team Associated lovers, Losi lovers, ARRMA lovers. You know what? Again, these are fun cars. We're here to have fun. I hear some people, when you go to these racetracks and stuff and you're racing around, everyone's getting into each other's faces and everyone's got their anger going at each other. Oh, you're an ARRMA guy. Oh, you're a Traxxas guy. Like, in the end, come on. It's just.
I mean, look, that's exactly right. I mean, look, it's really not much different from picking a favorite footy team or a baseball team or a basketball team. You're going to have your favorites, whether it's because of the color, whether it's because of the name, whether it's because it has, a particular product that you've just been grown attached to. So everyone's going to have a bias towards a particular product. That's a given. It's within our human nature. But I think what's important to remember is to respect others as well. Just because they prefer an ARRMA over a Traxxas, or a Traxxas over a Losi, or a whatever, it doesn't really make them better or worse. It's just what they like, and within their skill, what they want to do, and what they want to achieve out of the hobby, that's what makes them happy. And it's important to respect that. Now, doing a little bit of tongue in cheek, a little bit of banter, have a bit of fun. It's all good. It's all fine. It's all above board. It's all good. But when you start to get personal and you start to attack people and insult people because they just don't have the same taste as you, or they choose a different product to yours, that's when it gets ugly. Unfortunately, it gets a little bit ugly and gets a bit unfair. But that would be good if people would just chill. They're just toys,
Exactly.
Relax. We're all here for the same reasons. Let's just enjoy it and have fun.
That's right. And I'll give you one last question. I wanted to ask you this before. Do you have a top 5 or top 3 RCs that you have? You have a favorite RC, or?
Look, my favorite at the moment, look, there's a lot of ARRMA in that list, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I do have some favorites. I absolutely love my Team Associated rival. I've had that car for a very long time, and I can't see myself getting rid of that. I love that truck. The ARRMA Mojave is definitely one of the toughest trucks I've ever owned out of the box.
Wow.
Definitely took me by surprise. It's absolutely brilliant. I love that car. My Limitless, which is now, I took it into work yesterday, and one of the guys asked me, how much money is this worth? How much have you put into this car?
Ooh.
And now this is in Australian dollars.
I
put $2,000 into that car. So that's a lot of money. And I couldn't be happier, to be honest, because it's an absolute bullet. It's going to be capable of over 200 kilometers an hour, which is about 120 mile. So it should, 125 or something like that. So it should be a weapon once I actually get to run it. I love that car. The Losi 8T is definitely up there. The one that I converted to electric. Whenever I race my friends, that car just dominates. You look at my RC carnage videos. Whenever Losi hits the track, it's always up the front. So I'm really happy with that. And do I have another? Oh, shit, sorry. my doctor's behind me.
Pooch. Poor little guy.
So great. Probably, if I'm gonna say, probably my Creighton V4 is another one, which is a really good basher. That has that served me well. It's done really well, and it's just a good all-round car that I can just take out any time and go for a run and have fun with. So yeah, that's probably my top 5 there, just off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, you got me thinking now. I got to go back into my pocket and pull out some money and grab some more cars now, because every time you do that, I have to always go out and purchase a new RC.
Sorry.
So, no, it's all good, man. I appreciate it, man. Well, listen, this has been a great interview. Gosh, I mean, it's great talking to someone across the globe and someone that I follow. And it's really been an honor talking to you. And I hope we can keep in touch in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate the invite and the opportunity to do this. So thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it, man.
Very, very welcome, man. And listen, be safe out there. And yeah, man, we'll be in touch.
For sure. Take care.
All right.